Okay. And good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast, episode 214. See, I ramped up there. I'm your
I did.
host, Adam Bell, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing well, Adam. How are you?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm well, and it's spring, and we're actually experiencing a spring. I mean, I think you guys really get a spring, but we usually don't get one.
Yeah. We usually have a spring, but we kind of sprung into summer. So we've had a few hot days. I mean, what you would say we've had a few days, but here
Hmm.
they've been hot. So
I know we'll talk about that later. But when I was up there, one of the guys was like, "Oh, it's gonna be so hot tomorrow." I said, "What's the temperature gonna be?" He said, 80. I'm like, huh. That's precious.
but it's a wet heat.
It's a wet heat. We know wet heat in the South.
You sure do, and you can keep it. So,
But no,
oh
so
man.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's actually spring here. It's cool enough at night to where we can leave the windows open. We get like 2 weeks out of the year that you can leave the windows open, and that's usually split between spring and fall. And then it's just, well, it's so humid. It may be cool enough, but it's so humid that the whole house is wet. You're wet. It just you feel hotter than you are.
Yep. No, I know that feeling for sure.
Hmm.
Oh man. So besides the weather, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Everything's going all right. My family's doing well. My my oldest daughter, she's doing her law school gig at Fort Leonard Wood
Hmm.
with the JAG Corps out there. So that's it's I wasn't all out of the military branches. The Army is not my favorite. My mother was in the Army, and I was at Fort Campbell for growing up. So I was kind of hoping she'd get something like the Navy or the Air Force,
Hmm.
but the Army responded, and she really likes the base. It is in the woods. They call it it's called Fort Leonard Wood, but they call it Fort Lost in the Woods because it's in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. But the people in the JAG Corps are nice. They're very welcome. And she's an intern. I mean, you know how interns get treated. Sometimes they just, you know, get my coffee, dum dum. If you knew you knew
Yep.
nothing, that'd be something. So, and
Oh man.
they have horses, and she loves horses, um and JAG Corps is kind of insular.
Yep.
They're not everybody's favorite people,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they're the lawyers that have to deal with all that stuff. And
Yep.
so they kind of have a small group that live and work together. So that's been
Okay.
kind of nice.
Okay.
So a smaller unit within the big part of the Army. And so
So yeah, for a minute I thought I had missed something there. I thought that maybe I was like, wait, is she in officer training? Is she enlisted or
yeah, well, it's funny. She's been wanting to be in ROTC, where
okay.
you do the Reserve
Yep.
Officer Training Corps, and you go through college, and then you end up as an officer in various branches. But it's
Right.
not worked out. She goes to Lincoln Memorial,
Yep.
and they have ROTC at UT Knoxville, and she's right beside the campus there. So they said, well, LMU doesn't have ROTC, but you can go to the UT, or you can go to UT Knoxville's ROTC. That's what they told her. And
Yep.
then, of course, it's been a whole bureaucratic. They're like, well, you don't go here. You don't go to UT. Like, well, they
Yeah.
told me that this is where I could go because I go to school across the street. I see UT, and it's not available here. So the whole thing, we're like, look, just get your degree and go in as an officer.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, like, just start at the top, or start as an officer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no,
So,
that's cool. Yeah, because I was wondering, it's like, because when we met, I was like, I didn't realize that she was in law school before too. I knew the other daughter was in architecture school,
hmm
But I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. So now I was like, wait, did I also miss that she's in the army? Like, wait, hold on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, my youngest daughter, who's studying to be an architect, she didn't know who Art Vandelay was. I said, I told, she said, being an architect. I said, yeah, I always wanted to pretend to be an architect. And she's like, what? I said, Art Vandelay. Look it
Art
up.
Vandelay, indeed.
Well,
Okay.
cool. So
Yeah.
how's your world?
World's pretty good. I'm still doing like nothing with the right arm.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's just hanging there. Basically, it doesn't move at the shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
keeping it close. And there are days when it's more sore than others. Today it's sore. Couple weeks from now, I'm officially out of out of the sling, and I start physical therapy, and so we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
It
also planning to sign up with a personal trainer,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
the other PT, and there'll probably be some overlap. We'll have two PTs at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I decided that I need encouraged somewhat by your example. I'm trying to be less cheap, and I'm trying to, specifically where it matters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I found a place that's half mile away from here. They seem to have a pretty good reputation. I had a good 45-minute initial meet and greet with, the trainer that I decided to sign up with.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to get it. He asked all the right questions as far as I'm concerned. And, like he asked me about nutrition and diet and, what my normal exercise routine is like and a lot of other stuff. And, I think that he sounds like we're going to probably get along just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I need to get cleared by the physical therapist first, but the plan is I won't be doing, like any upper body stuff for
Mm-hmm.
at least a couple of months. So it's all going to be like core and lower body.
Mm-hmm.
But frankly, I need accountability. Like I'm good at teaching other folks and,
Mm-hmm.
telling them to do XYZ on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, my own strength training regimen, I'm not so good at enforcing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm gonna pay someone else some money to enforce that, and that's my cost of entry. If that's the cost
Mm-hmm.
that it takes for me to shed a few pounds, or more importantly, convert a few pounds of flab to muscle, then it's worth the price of entry.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't say shape, like you're not a big old fat guy or unhealthy. You're a pretty healthy guy. I think it's going to be, getting your shoulder rehabilitated, getting you healthy, keeping you healthy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, it'll be worth it, especially the accountability. Because I would like CrossFit, I've missed so much lately, like just
Hmm.
schedule work wise, travel wise, personal. I've missed a lot, and I come back and I just can't do what where I left off. So I've
Yep.
got to build back up.
Yep.
And my coach is like, that's pretty lame, bro. And I'm like, I know. I said, but I've been here 3 days this month. The month of May, I showed up 3 days. I cannot do, you know,
Yep.
elite athlete movements without some building into it.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
you'll.
I want to, like I do, yoga is good for long-term maintenance.
Mm,
Running is good for long-term cardio. But strength, just raw strength training is something, that's also good, having muscles, and muscles are a good tool to protect the joints from injury.
mm-hmm.
So I want to put on a little bit, especially though, like, even now, like my upper body, I can feel the flab and, the sag, especially
Yeah,
my right arm. Like when I look at myself in the mirror now, I don't know if you can tell on
yeah.
camera, but it is quite clear that my left arm is bigger than my right.
It's good.
And it's only been a few weeks,
Yeah.
Now granted, there have been other things that my right arm hasn't been able to do because of the rotator cuff tear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's like, I want to fix that. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. But it's also, the nice thing is it's half mile from my place. So, like I can do a warm up run over there
Yeah.
and then, do a little cardio to get there. And if
Mm-hmm.
I really work hard, then I can just go right next door to Elements Massage, which
Mm.
is right there too, which I've been going to. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, this is perfect. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, so you had mentioned, that I said you were cheap. That's all in fun.
oh,
Frugality is
but it's,
important,
I'm not
but
disputing it though.
yeah.
Yeah.
But well, the reason that came up is, a news article came out and said, running is probably, still one of the best overall exercise. It's got its limit. If you only do one particular exercise, there's always, you've got to do different things. You can't just eat one food. You can't just eat, you got to do everything in moderation. But if
Yep.
your primary exercise was running only, that's a pretty good one to pick.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Just need some
that news
shoes
article, and
and
I said, yeah, that's why Peter does it. It doesn't cost him anything to run. He
it's
just puts on
cheap.
some shoes and runs.
Bingo. Even then though, too, there's plenty of folks out there who don't even do that. They just go barefoot, even
Yeah.
cheaper. So
Yeah. That'd be tough. I'm Chief Tenderfoot.
so when we get to our nifty today, I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, I'll tell you why it is nifty. But I know that we did touch 2 episodes ago on the fact that I got a new furnace
Mm-hmm.
and a new AC compressor, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very happy. They both seem to be working well.
Oh, that's even
Yep,
better.
yep, and it's quieter.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. Hopefully, it'll shave a little bit off my my utility bill as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. So that's going well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we both had to deal with some government issues recently. I've been having to deal with the state of Vermont.
Yeah. Yep.
Fun times. So much fun. And I immediately, as I started dealing with them, I remembered how much I was happy to not have to deal with them because my
Mm-hmm.
dealings with the state of Massachusetts have been so much better than Vermont.
I can't remember if it was you or somebody else was telling me up there. I mean, that it's really, really difficult and convoluted in a lot of ways.
Oh, totally. So one thing is, so Medicaid is, it's a federal program, but it's managed, at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And since my mom is on Medicaid long-term care, we have to reapply every year.
Mm.
And so I got this notice, and of course, by the time I got through all of the, the stack of mail that had gone to my mother, it had been sitting there for a month,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, yeah, this is due in like 3 days.
Yeah.
So I frantically start calling around and, this number, oh no, you don't need to, we don't do that. Call these people. I call those people. Like, oh no, you should call this number. I'm like, no, they told me to call you. And like, well, you can talk to this caseworker. Okay, that caseworker's out. Oh, okay, in that case, I can help you. And I was like, okay, great. Look,
Yeah, in that case, I can help you.
I don't know how to answer half of these questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a packet of information they're asking for. And like, is there any sort of fast track? Can we are there any shortcuts? Is there like stuff that I don't need to fill out? No, we need the full completed form. Fine. But we can help you answer those questions. Great. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what would start is, could you just send me last year's application? Like, can you say, oh yeah, I can print that out and mail it to you? Like, can you email it to me? No. And while the state of Vermont does have an upload portal, they don't have a download portal, so I can't have them send it to me that way. But so while we're working on it on the phone, I get to the like, how much did your mother spend on prescription drugs last year? I'm like, yeah, I don't have any of it. They're like, oh, that's okay. We don't need that. We have that from last year.
How about you do everything from last year? Because
Well, I'm like, so this is what I meant when I asked you, like, is there any sort of shortcuts? And you told me you needed the complete application. Oh, is that what you meant? Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's exactly what I meant. Exactly what I said too. So, we were able to get that processed and uploaded finally. So that's fine. But then, it's just like other fun things that I'm working with. Like we've had to put my dad's car, we're going to have to put that into an estate to get settled by the probate court, because that was overlooked during my father's last will and testament, because vehicles are separate from the house and the retirement funds, et cetera, et cetera.
Ah,
So, like my lawyer said, yeah, we're gonna have to bite the bullet and open up a small estate and put the car into it. And then I'm not sure what happens if it goes to my mom and then I have to buy it from her, or if it goes to my mom and then we split it 50-50. My mom, by the way, who has not been able to drive for 9 years.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's just no logic to this, but it's like, nope, we got to follow the rule of law. I'm like, okay, even when the law doesn't make any sense, no exceptions. So, fun
So
times.
you need a will written on the back of a napkin. I give
Yeah.
everything to my wife. If she is deceased, I give it all to my son. Everything.
Or if she's disabled and
Yeah.
then, so anyway, so that's been fun. But,
So
I did get a note also from the state. It was very cryptic, but I think if I understand correctly, it means that my solar installers have applied for the permits to go ahead and start installing solar panels up there.
nice.
So I'm excited about that. So that'll be fun. Given that just yesterday I got a text message from Green Mountain Power saying your power's out. I was like, mm-hmm.
Do you want me to
Thanks,
get?
guys.
I've got some good prepper sites if you want me to get those to you, that you can get some food stored there
There you go.
and
Yep.
ammo and
Probably need to, yeah, circulate those. I'd like to compare those to my best friend up in Vermont and see how they compare to what he does, because
the
he
problem
likes to
is
consider himself a sane prepper.
a sane prepper. Yeah, that's what I consider myself to be, a sane prepper. I'm not living the lifestyle.
Spoiler alert, they all do.
Yeah, they all do. Okay, I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't, have a rotating pantry with all the things that you're supposed to do. I just have some supplies that will last 25 years. They probably don't
Yeah.
taste very good.
Yeah, that's okay. Like I, could just stock up on peanut butter, or
Yeah.
lately I've been eating a lot of PB Fit, peanut butter powder,
Oh yeah.
and that's good. So
And you hope you don't develop a random food allergy of peanuts.
allergy to peanuts.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're like, oh my god,
All I have to live on is peanuts. Well,
it'll
I
kill
guess I
me.
was going to die anyway. I guess it's going to be via peanut butter.
I mean, there are worse ways to go, I think.
Yeah.
My girlfriend would disagree. She hates
Yeah.
American peanuts, but whatever.
Yeah. So, well, cool. And so what's this about AI and Amazon? Is that?
So you may recall in the earlier days of this podcast, like in the 2018 era, we spent a lot of time talking about Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
specifically around their Echo devices,
Mm-hmm.
powered by Alexa. And that was we had reasons. I had another a reason which is no longer valid.
No longer
So
a reason.
right. But we talked a lot about, hey, what's new here? What's new here? Right. And I think the intention was that it's a tool that
Mm-hmm.
we would use to make our lives better. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, Bezos's intention is it's a tool to make him more money.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm kind of glad, because I did see a while ago, like I still have my Alexa devices, my Echo, Amazon. I'm hitting all the keywords that you
Yeah.
can use, except Ziggy. I didn't get Ziggy. Did you know Ziggy is a name you can give your Echo devices?
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, you can call it Alexa, Echo, Amazon, computer. Yeah, I got that one. And some of them, the newer ones, support Ziggy, which I think is kind of funny because my neighbor's dog who passed away recently was named Ziggy.
Yeah.
So, but like the idea of like automating the home and, remind me to do this, or just, hey, buy me that, turn
Mm-hmm.
off the lights and stuff. It's all just a way to, supposed to be a quality of life improvement. Now, there are plenty of times when it was a quality of life downgrade for me,
Yeah.
because I'm yelling at the thing because it's doing the wrong thing and my blood pressure's rising. But I'm wondering, like, what's new? What's the new fun tool, cool thing? And for me, it's AI. Even if it's just like AI being sprinkled into whatever it is that that you have, right? Um, so one of the things I've been doing is, as we've covered on 2 episodes ago, I believe, is I've been playing a lot with Fabric, which is again a command line interface to your chosen language model. And but it also has a couple of other neat utilities. And so one of the things is a tool that they include called YT, which is short for YouTube. And we're going to cover this as a nifty, so I'm going to skip ahead a little
All
bit.
right, yeah.
But what it can do is get you like the duration of a YouTube video, or what I usually use is it can pull the entire contents of a YouTube video and generate, or it can pull the transcript of a YouTube video. And so I use that. And I just used that on 2 episodes ago to confirm that we did talk about the furnace. Because I couldn't remember if we had talked on this, because although they are different podcasts and you are different people, we often cover the same topic on the Friends with Brews podcast as we cover on the Blurring the Lines podcast, because 50% of the hosts are the same people.
Yeah.
So I quickly grabbed YT and I went to the Blurring the Lines podcast website. I found the link to the YouTube video, and I just said YT dash dash transcript, gave it the URL, pipe into grep dash I for case insensitive furnace, and I got a result back, which means the word furnace appeared somewhere in there, and I'm like, perfect. And then I had to grep a little because it does just give you giant wall of text. But I was able to find it, and I was like, great. So we did talk about the furnace. So that's how I knew that this isn't oh, by the way, Adam, I got a new furnace and I don't remember if I told you. And but I did. So now what I was doing was I was just asking my AI assistant if it would be so kind as to help me generate a script to go through all of your YouTube videos so that I can just parse all of them for keywords. It's like, have we talked about a watt box? What's a watt box, right? Now, of course, how does that word going to show up? Because I bet the transcriber probably doesn't know it's WATTBOX. It's probably maybe a WHAT space BOX,
the
or
what box. Yeah.
what box, a wet box, right? But it gave me a bash script, which looks pretty good at first glance. So I'm gonna probably give that a shot and see what happens. But I might have to soon basically have my own local YouTube search engine to search just your stuff. So I can just say like BTLS for blurring the lines search a keyword and just have it go. There it is.
That's pretty cool and powerful.
And nifty.
And nifty. That is nifty.
So that's my thought. How do you like that?
How long does it take to process?
Well, why don't we do one of these in real time? Actually, you know what? I could share my screen and we can actually throw this right into the video.
Okay.
So hold that thought. Let me, I'm going to call it Blurring the Lines Search, BTLS.
And I'll tell a joke while you're doing this.
You do that. I'm setting this up.
So R2 is short for R2D2. Chewie is short for Chewbacca. 3PO is short for C3PO. What is Luke Skywalker short for? A stormtrooper.
Did you say Ben is short for Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I just did.
We should throw that
Ben,
one in there too.
Ben is short for Obi-Wan.
Yep. Yeah, I was good. He is a little short for a stormtrooper. All right. Well, let's go ahead and I will share my screen and I'll show you what this could look like. For example, here's warp. Let me know when you can see my warp screen.
I can
And
see.
incidentally, I'll post a thing too, because if you're not using warp as your main terminal on your Mac, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
I wrote a review of it recently. They asked me like, why do you like warp or why do you love warp? And I was like, because you're doing things with a terminal that I never even thought should be done with a terminal. It's like, just why couldn't it do this, right? It makes
Uh-huh.
perfect sense now. So anyway, so what I did is I'll just go up to the most recent command right here.
All
So this
right.
guy. So I just said yt dash dash transcript, the URL of the YouTube video, and I said grep, and I added the color keyword,
Mm-hmm.
case insensitive dash I furnace. And 1, 2,000, so about 2 seconds. Now it's pulling the transcript. So it's just fetching it from YouTube because YouTube maintains the transcript. It didn't create the transcript.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it
Well,
just
that makes
grabbed that.
sense.
Right. But what I could also do now is, and you might want to do this, is so we grab all that and now I can pipe that into Fabric and I can say stream the output and the pattern I want you to follow, -S-P, is create summary. Now, this is just a generic pattern or a function that the Fabric program can run. We've
Mm-hmm.
touched on this before, right? So one of them is just build in summary. I can build on this if I want to, and I could make a create podcast summary
Mm-hmm.
so that it formats the output saying, include the title, who are the hosts, what was the
Mm-hmm.
date, what was the, yada, yada. But I'm just going to say, Fabric, summarize this to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this will run by default. My Fabric points at my local Llama 3 server. So it's
Mm-hmm.
my own model on this machine, as opposed to piping it up to ChatGPT or to Claude. So let's see
Right.
what happens. So, and this is the Llama 3 8B, 8 billion parameters, I think is what it means.
Okay.
So it can take a little time. It's a little chuggy at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's thinking, it's chewing on this. If I open up another window right now and just run top, I can see, yeah, even top is taking a while to load. Oh, there it goes. All right. It seems like the recording ended and the host is wrapping up the episode. So Llama 8B can be, well, frankly, garbage. If you give it too much info on the prompts, it can just
Mm-hmm.
die on you. So let's find out now this, however, the problem is if you run the Llama 70B, which is like the 70 billion, whatever, token or whatever, I forget what it means exactly. It's a much larger model.
Mm-hmm.
That brings my machine to its knees,
Yeah.
right? But let's just try it. We'll give it like a minute maybe just to see what happens. And this is on an M2 MacBook with
Mm-hmm.
24 gigs of RAM. Okay, so model Llama 3:70B. All right, so now it starts to chug. And again, I'll open up top in another window off screen and just see what's going on. Top is okay, it is now loading and we're chugging. Now the Olama server is not pegging the processor, so it's not the most intense, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
telling you it's gonna, it's chugging away at its own, taking its own time, its own sweet pace. I'm not going to wait for this. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to run it again. But this time, instead of specifying the Llama 370B model, I'm going to specify GPT-40, which is their new, better, faster, cheaper model.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm making API calls on this now. So I'm paying for this
Yeah.
because this is, based on the size of the input that I throw into it and the size of the response they send back. I can even see my video is getting a little choppy at this point. But anyway, for comparison, we'll go back to this YT. Still working, still thinking about it. So we go back to here. Now all the processing gets done on the GPT servers, right?
Right.
So I'm throwing it up to them. And then the only thing is, well, like, so we established it takes like 2 seconds to pull down the YouTube, and there you go.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that.
So, one sentence summary: the podcast episode discusses personal updates, work-life balance, AI applications, and
Nikolaidis.
upcoming plans for a special episode. Peter Nikolaidis, exactly.
He's an inflamed Nick.
Oh my goodness, I've definitely been felt like that on occasion. But what you'll see is we have a fairly decent summary here, and we could feed it, right? I could make like a create Blurring the Lines podcast where the hosts are and spell the names out properly, right? And I could also give it a little background about us. So it knows that, Adam runs a managed services provider, here. Peter is, a CISO for various clients throughout, the United States, blah, blah, blah. Give it a little background. Adam likes to do CrossFit. Peter likes to do yoga and running, et cetera, et cetera. And then it can really just know these things. So yeah. And you saw that was just a couple of commands to type it. So there you go. These could be your show notes, or, the makings of show notes. And then you can just tack on or just paste this right into what we have. So that's, so that's pretty slick. And again, that's the YT, mostly the YT command, which is included with Fabric. Meanwhile, my Llama 70B is still struggling. I'm going to just kill it. Because my workstation is starting to really drag as a result. So
this is a perfect example of I don't have balance in my life to mess around with some of these cool things that interest me. It's not like oh, well, that's cool, but I don't care. No, I do care. That does interest me. Yeah.
It does interest you, but yeah. And that's why, like some of this stuff I can justify as work related. Because like I've used some of these. I've been helping this thing's been helping me try to create a program to use the various online APIs and searching leveraging those to search against my clients' external IP addresses for vulnerabilities. And so it's got a lot of really cool applications. So, and I did throw in the summary into the show notes if you want to include those. So.
Cool. Yeah. What I also like about there is you could do a task that it's not terribly tedious for me to produce the show notes and to publish it, but it is somewhat tedious. The AI transcript that we get now from Zoom helps a ton, because all I do is I copy it, but then I've got to clean it up a little bit. I got to take spaces out. I got to do little things with the formatting. Not terrible. But then I got to publish to Amazon. I've got to publish to YouTube. I got to copy and paste and links, and I could program that. We finish the podcast. I publish it to Amazon. I tell it the URL, and it would build it.
And you could programmatically fetch that URL. I'm certain you can pull that automatically. So once it's published, you can just tell it, go fetch the latest and do what it needs to do. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, so I wouldn't even have to like kick it off. It's waiting for it to come.
There you go. Just waiting.
So you and I could just walk around the world podcasting, and every time we save a file that automatically updates to Amazon, we're published.
We're done.
I like it.
And we've got show notes and etc. It's all that done. Yeah. And then we can just start using our AI assistants to actually have the podcast, so we don't even need to talk to each other anymore.
Yeah. Tell Peter that I found this nifty, and he'll find it nifty too.
I will tell Peter's AI assistant that you found this nifty.
Yeah.
So something else I heard, I just mentioned this to you. I heard today there's a rumor, apparently it's a strong rumor. It was like on a security podcast that listened to. A rumor made the security podcast, and that is that Apple will be introducing its own password manager.
So, that's kind of interesting to me when you said that, because I was thinking, well, KeyPass, or not
Hmm?
KeyPass, keep no, what do they call it?
Keeper, KeyPass, 1Password, LastPass,
No, what Apple keychain.
Keychain,
Keychain. There we
Keychain.
go. So
Yes,
you've got the Apple keychain. It already exists, and
yes,
it does synchronize between devices, doesn't it? Doesn't your keychain
I believe it does.
sync between
Um,
Apple devices? So it shouldn't be that big of a stretch to make that better.
it shouldn't.
Um,
And I don't know if this is going to be an enhancement to that
mhm.
or, replacement. Knowing Apple, they'll probably leave keychain around too. And so,
Yeah, because
but yeah, it would be useful.
yeah, it'd be completely useful because I've already got an Apple Wallet, but I use Keeper. In
Yep.
Keeper, I have credit cards in there. I don't know why, but I can't put some credit cards in Apple Wallet. I don't understand that at all. And it has to do with my bank. Like
Ah,
I can put my bank debit card in, but I cannot put my
sorry.
bank's credit card in.
I I'm sorry. I thought I was gonna say, like, I guess we're gonna to have Scott on to another episode to have him explain to you how Apple Wallet works.
Yeah.
I don't understand Apple Wallet at all.
We'll do it. Yeah. Well, this is Scott's official invitation to be on the next podcast to explain to us how Apple Wallet works.
There you go. So I know you've got another meeting coming up ahead of
Yeah.
time, so I'm going to just punt a few things for carryovers,
Yep.
and we can talk about them next week. But in the meantime, dear listener, check the show notes for links to Warp and Fabric, two of my favorite new utilities I've been using. And I will give Scott, listener and friend of, and sometimes co-host of the show, Scott Wilsey, props. He is the one who told me about Warp,
Hmm.
and it is cool. I have not liked using the command line so much. So if you are someone who uses the command line, you got to check out Warp. It's available for Mac OS and Linux, and I believe it's coming to Windows, but it's not available yet.
Cool.
So it is pretty slick, and it's just got a lot of really cool features. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but like right off the bat, you can start just using it like a regular old terminal.
Hmm.
And then you start to figure out like, oh, and I'm not even using, I'm maybe scratching the surface with like 10% of what I'm
Hmm.
doing. And it's great.
Yeah.
Scott has a lot, he points out like, hey, we could use it for this and this. I'm like, yeah, we could, but like I don't know if that meets our needs right now and stuff. But it's got a pretty cool, it's got workflows. It's got the ability to do like team style functions. You can use, I think it's got its own like knowledge base,
Oh, wow.
thing like built in, so you can share your commands and prompts and things with other users on your team and stuff. It's pretty slick. So yeah,
Cool.
highly recommended.
All right. Well, Peter, it's
Mm.
been great talking with you today.
As always, and we didn't even get to the main topic.
Yeah. Yep, it carried over. We're going to talk about Boston.
Perfect.
All right.
All
Well, cool,
right.
man.
Well, on that note, I think it's time that one of us pushes that big red button.
We should make that a tagline or something. Big red button.
Yeah, it's like we've heard that before.